whole story basically started the week of Easter. I had a near-death experience. I died on Good Friday in 2001 and then left the hospital on Easter Sunday. And I was 33 years old, interestingly enough, which is apparently the age Jesus was when he died. So, someone pointed that out to me at one point, that my story paralleled Jesus' resurrection story. So I think that was kind of interesting. If there's anyone here that was watching my channel before, bless your heart. I'm so glad you're here. I'm back now, and I'm so glad that you're here. And if you're new, which I'm guessing most people are going to be new, welcome. I don't know that the way that I'm doing this is going to work. I decided just to pick up and relaunch this channel. It may not work. I may have to start over from scratch with a new channel at zero. I don't know. I'm just going to try and see if I can just relaunch and keep going with evening TV. So that's what we're doing. I have a son who is in spirit now, and he left his body. He transitioned into the spirit world, as I prefer to say it, in 2016 at the age of 20. It was an accidental overdose. My children had severe complex post-traumatic stress disorder from the truly nightmare that we'd been through with their dad, who was a diagnosed sociopath, diagnosed with ASPD and NPD, and also in a largely narcissistic family. They're not diagnosed. My ex-husband actually was formally diagnosed. The others aren't diagnosed, but they fit the criteria. At the very least, as a rule, most of the extended family was emotionally immature and self-absorbed, and no one was putting the children's needs first. No one was protecting the kids. No one was trying to stop my ex from just completely trying to destroy my life, which he did. So basically what happened was, in 2001, when I had this health crisis, I had this spontaneous coronary artery dissection, a sudden, rare, and deadly heart condition. And this resulted in a complication following an emergency heart surgery, and I flatlined and died, and had a profound near-death experience, which I have videos about on this channel. There's a whole playlist of them. When I came back, the world as I knew it was no longer there. My marriage was breaking down anyways. I was in a bunch of denial about it, but basically what happened in our lives was that we were getting more and more successful in business, and the better our lives got, the worse my husband was treating me, and the message was that he didn't need me anymore. Well, now that I've had this health crisis, and I was not out of the woods. I was left with some injuries, and I had health concerns. So I had, ongoing, I don't know why this heart thing happened. Could it happen again? That kind of thing. So now, I always enjoyed really excellent health, and now I have doctors and medical things that are part of my life. That was the nail in my coffin, because he was already backing away. But my husband at the time just weaponizes my health crisis, weaponizes my trust and love for him, weaponizes my narcissistic family, all against me. And several years of just a nightmare experience happened, and just incredible stories that I tell. A lot of those stories on this channel. You'll find those videos here, and it's incredible things. Total betrayal of my family and all of that. So after about 4 years or so, I am left completely penniless, disabled, and utterly alone, other than my 2 traumatized children. And then I go through the story of reinventing my life and rebuilding a whole new life from scratch for myself and my kids. And I tell that story and how I did that in my book, The Art of Reinventing Your Life. I met my now current husband and got married for the second time in 2011. And I wrote a book and a program called The Art of Loving Again. And I have since revised the workbooks. I was really hoping that this would be the few last remaining years of their childhood could be secure and safe, but that wasn't in the cards, because by the time we got there, The trauma had taken its toll, and my eldest son was using drugs. And so the next 5 years, we went through a journey of addiction treatment, learned a lot of things about addiction treatment and all of that. And also at the same time, my son was this developing musician, and he was an incredibly talented musician. So that was the upside. I mean, this was the 5-year period. It was this kind of contrast. But ultimately, that period of my life also ends life as I knew it when he passed away. Basically, I have 2 times in my life where I have reinvented myself from a place where life as I knew it ended. Just ended. It wasn't like a life change. It was like it ended. And by that I mean ego death. So for the first time, I was very attached to the life that I had created as a wife and a mother and a daughter and a sister and an aunt and a business owner and a homeowner and all these things, a friend and, much a player in the community. And it was a complete ego death because every single one of those attachments was stripped away. And I was lied about, smear campaign, and I never defended myself. I was basically really pretty helpless to defend against any of this because my head was also very much in the near-death experience, and I couldn't do anything but see the very best in them, see the child in them, the innocent, and trust them. And I kept trusting them all the way up until the fact that they didn't love me was undeniably true. And I could deny anything. I was an Olympic level denier. And so it took a lot for things to start to finally become undeniable to me. And it had to get to that point. And so what I got to see, brutal as it is, there was no stopping them. I mean, my ex-husband he was a sociopath, and I got to really learn what that meant because he was committing crimes. He was a pathological liar. He was manipulating all kinds of people. He was, and he had no remorse. I mean, I had never done anything but be a wonderful partner to this man and the mother of his children, and was so devoted and loyal and loving to him and got behind all of his dreams. And, I really can say that I was the best wife anyone could ever have, and especially him, because he was not an easy husband. He was not, he wasn't the easiest person. I mean, and we had nothing when we first got married. We had absolutely nothing, and everything that we had at the point when we were getting divorced, we had built together, and he took it all. Basically, what happened was when I died, he got in his mind, that's what I want. I want what I would get if she died. And so he didn't want a divorce. He didn't want to split the assets and, figure out child, custody, and, he didn't child support. He didn't want to do any of that. He just wanted to keep our life and have me erased out of it. And it was amazing how close to that he got. And I didn't do anything to help myself. I mean, I played right into his hands and made every mistake in the book, which is part of why I, know so well what not to do. After my son died, I connected with him immediately in spirit. It was interesting because some of the things that I had already been through, my near-death experience for one, helped me because I knew where he was. That was really kind of comforting, was that I knew where he was because I'd been there. And also surprisingly, because I'd had so many painful losses, I also knew how to get through losses. There's a saying, I think it was, I'm not sure who it was that said this, but the kindest way to lose someone you love is for them to die. And that is true. I would have to say that's true, because there's something about a loss that malicious, and that is a choice, and that is an ongoing choice that keeps being made again and again, and that insults and injuries keep happening over and over again, and that these people can always choose to come and reconcile, and they just never do. That's an ongoing pain. That's an ongoing hurt. My son, he and I had a great relationship. He had nothing but love for me. And so that's why it's harder to be estranged from my whole family than that. And also because none of the other losses are acknowledged or validated by anyone, you know. And mostly, as for the most part, I am just kicked out of the family, and everyone believes a false narrative, and so mostly I'm blamed for all the other losses. What I've done to reinvent my life this time is that I was led to Mexico, to the Mayan jungles, and to a place that we are building a wellness center that we're calling Hacienda Noah, that will be the place where we offer the kind of holistic care, compassionate care that I could never find for my son. Could have helped him that I just could never find because it didn't exist. One of my big issues was that I realized the state of addiction treatment, and it was just really shameful. I mean, especially considering the number of people that are dying and the escalating opiate epidemic, and that we haven't done anything to address it or to update our programs, or, you know, it just seems very much like addicts are throwaway people. It's much more upset over COVID than all the people dying from overdoses, you know. So that really sends a message to me, and it sends a message to me that the 12-step program is the gold standard for treatment, even though it fails 92% of the time, and even though it was developed in 1939 and has had no modifications, no updates, no, it was just kind of appalling. So, you know, but that's something for another time. All of these things play together in my story. So, you know, we can talk about the abuse, we can talk about complex trauma recovery, addiction recovery, and grief and loss, estrangement, you know, how we reinvent our lives, like how I have got past all those many losses, continue to live my life and be a person who can wake up in the morning excited for the day. My surviving son, he was also compelled at the same time to go to Africa and get trained in this plant medicine that we're going to use here. It was really kind of synchronistic. So I'm back. I'm hoping that you will, you know, subscribe and come on for the ride and go look at my old videos, kind of refresh yourself, and let me know if you have any interest in my showing you around my home and my business here, even though it's not necessarily what the topic is. If you have any interest in knowing about that or learning anything about what it's like to build a home and a business in Mexico, we're actually in outside of Mérida. So we're actually outside of a town called Motul, which is, you know, we're in the country. We're about 45 minutes from Mérida. That's basically it. So I'm happy to be back. I'm going to get back on a once a week upload schedule and kind of restart all of my stuff, all of my website and all of my social media, and just kind of get everything going again. And I hope that you will come along and help me get started again. All right. Thank you so much, and I look forward to being back. All right. Bye-bye.
Let me ask a little truth. I'd like to know your point